Khamzat Chimaev is the most dangerous grappler in the UFC right now, and in just a couple of weeks, he's going to be fighting Sean Strickland. Now, you may be very tempted to pick Khamzat immediately, but don't, because Khamzat has a glaring, and I mean obvious, problem in his grappling that nobody has been able to expose yet, except for one guy, and that's Gilbert Burns. And if Sean has done his homework, he might just have a field day out there with Khamzat. Let me explain. First of all, we need to look at Khamzat's grappling style quickly. What Khamzat does to basically every opponent in the first round is he presses you towards the cage and shoots a double leg. Sometimes he gets it, sometimes he doesn't, but either way he always works towards the same position. If he doesn't get the takedown, he makes sure to go to that body lock. When he's got that, he uses his physicality to drag you down and trap your legs until he's got you in this position. From there, he pretty much always gets your wrist, and it's here where you are essentially finished. You have two options. Break his wrist control with your other hand. Now he's on your back and you're a couple of seconds away from tapping. But if you don't go for that wrist, well, then he grabs a Dagestani handcuff and flattens you out. From here, you're either getting finished with ground and pound or you're turning to your back where he's subbing you. This sequence might be a bit confusing, but I'm gonna simplify why it works. Basically, everyone makes these two mistakes. Even Gilbert did one of them. His opponents always try to build a base to get up. Rob did this, Usman did this, Drickus, Holland, and they all get subbed or manhandled. The second mistake is very counterintuitive, because your first instinct when you fight a good grappler is to try to get up, right? When you find an opportunity, you take it and you get away. But throw all of that out the window. Against Khamzat, you don't do that. Your primary goal is not to get up, it is to get away from the cage. You need to get to a position where you have no threat from Khamzat. Drickus did this very well, but he didn't have the technical prowess to get up. Rob, however, did make this mistake against Khamzat. He scrambled and he even got up, but what did Khamzat do? He shot again and got Rob down into an even worse position because Rob got too stressed and didn't get away from the cage. You have to take your time and not be afraid to work with Khamzat on the ground. Now, Sean is a smart fighter. He's definitely aware of these mistakes, and so we might be able to avoid them. And on the feet, does Khamzat even have a shot against Sean? Sean is one of the best at range control, and it's one of the reasons he dominates. If you're interested in developing your own range control ability, I'd highly recommend checking out the range control workout linked in the description. It's only $5, and I'm positive it's going to benefit both your MMA striking or your kickboxing or Muay Thai striking a ton. Back to the video. Now, what made Gilbert so different? Let's break the first grappling sequence down in its entirety. Khamzat immediately shoots on Gilbert, and here's the first important detail. Gilbert gets an underhook and an overhook, and I need you to remember that overhook specifically. It's very important later on. Remember, when the takedown gets defended, Khamzat goes to the body lock, and to do that, Khamzat needs that right side underhook, but it's actually Gilbert who manages to get it. Now, remember that overhook. Good. And the reason that overhook is important is it stops Khamzat from taking the back. Now, they're still fighting for that right underhook, but Khamzat is just unable to get it, and so he restarts and dives for a double leg again. Gilbert has pretty solid defense by turning his hips and using his under and overhook to lift the arms, but Khamzat switches to a single leg and lifts Gilbert. However, Gilbert is able to balance and lean to his right side to get a support leg under him, to which Khamzat answers by tripping the support leg, and Gilbert is now down. As he falls down, Gilbert bases on his right hand and left leg. From here, what Gilbert cannot do is get his wrist taken or let go of that overhook. Now, Khamzat traps Gilbert's legs between his and tries to move into a triangle mount, to which Gilbert defends by jerking his right leg out and basing on it, which also frees his right hand. Because his right hand is free, Gilbert can now also protect from Khamzat getting a right underhook. So Khamzat instead walks towards Gilbert's left and lifts the left leg of Gilbert, which forces him to base on that right hand, thus opening up that underhook for Khamzat. Now Khamzat has secured the body lock and he drags Gilbert backwards. Now Gilbert doesn't lay flat on his back, instead he's on his right hip, but from here it gets a lot worse. Khamzat gets that wrist and Gilbert opts for option 1, try to save his wrist. Because Gilbert just let go of that overhook, Khamzat can now take his back. So the first thing he does is step over with his left leg to try to get a hook in. Here, Gilbert actually manages to stand up, but it doesn't matter, because Khamzat still has his back and he now starts to pull Gilbert down onto his knees. But Gilbert thinks fast and Graham barrels out of the back take. Now he's on his back. However, he has got one butterfly hook, which is very good. As Khamzat tries to advance, Gilbert turns into him and secures his full butterfly guard. Gilbert controls the posture on Khamzat with a right collar tie, and as soon as Khamzat pulls out of it, Gilbert gets his feet out onto the hips and pushes himself out. Now the ref stands Gilbert up, and for nearly the rest of the fight, they're on the feet. Now, we learned 3 things in this fight that Sean needs. Number 1, a strong guard game. If you want to beat Khamzat, the best way, and actually the only proven way, is with a strong guard game. Now, I hear you. You might be saying that Dricus pulled guard on Khamzat, but the difference is that Dricus had no clue what he was doing from there. He barely controlled posture, and he only stayed in his closed guard. Didn't utilize any butterfly hooks, no shrimping, no scrambling, and yes, that does in fact not work. But if you actually know what you're doing and use these, quite frankly, simple techniques from the guard, you have a good shot at beating him. Second thing we learned, you can't allow him to take your back, like under no circumstances at all. Now this may seem simple, but keep that overhook at all costs. And if you can keep him away from getting double unders, even better. Once again, you may be thinking about Dricus or Usman, because they did have their backs taken, and they actually did a very good job at surviving. But from there, it's going to be virtually impossible for you to get away. And if you get your back taken, you scramble out of there as fast as you can. The last thing we learned was don't rush to try to stand up. He will just take you down again, and then you have to redo it all over again. Look at what Gilbert did. He didn't stress his way up. He took his time, he worked with his hooks, he worked with his butterfly guard, and he managed to get up. Instead of stressing, get away from the cage. You don't need to be in the middle, but you don't want to be close to the cage. Take your time, shrimp away slowly from the cage until you're able to safely get up without getting immediately taken down again. Now, will Sean be able to do this? The short answer to all of this is probably not. Sean is great at wrestling stand-ups, to be fair, but if there's one thing we learned from Dricus, it is that you cannot beat Khamzat by trying to out-wrestle him into a stand-up. He's too strong, he's too technical, just ain't gonna work. And unfortunately, I don't see Sean's guard game as nearly good enough to beat Khamzat's wrestling. I just don't. However, he might be able to use that jab teep in order to win, you never know. And if you want to get as good as Sean Strickland at range control, I highly recommend checking out the range control workout down below. As always, I appreciate the support. Let me know what y'all want to see in the future, and I'll see you in the next video.